Hubbard, and I serve as the Senior Coordinator for Parent and Family Services. So we are so excited that all of you are here to learn more about the college admissions process and next steps for your students at the University of Memphis. And so I am going to let Heather introduce herself, talk a little bit about what she does in our office, and then we'll have our guest speaker, Kyle, introduce himself as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Heather Hampton, and I serve as the coordinator for Parent and Family Services, work alongside Ms. Kayla Hubbard. And we do all things for parents and families, whether that's scheduling events like Parent and Family Weekend, inviting you to join the Parent and Family Association, or helping you support your students through e-newsletters and information, and also through our showing some love through Hugs from Home and finals care packages. So we do a lot for families and parents as a way to support you all as you support your students. So I'm glad you're here, and I hope you enjoy this session.
All right, thank you both Kayla and Heather for having me. My name is Kyle Nixon, and I have the privilege of serving as our Director of Recruitment and Orientation here at the University of Memphis. So I oversee all of the recruitment functions of the undergraduate admissions office, as well as the orientation function. So we're going to talk a little bit today just about general admissions type stuff. I'll tell you a little bit about some things to expect as it relates to your students' college search process. But then I'll also talk towards the end a little bit about new student orientation. If you have a senior student who is planning to start at the university next fall, I'll share some information about things that they need to be on the lookout for. But thank you all for joining us. I look forward to this conversation, and hopefully we can provide some information that will be helpful to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. And everyone that is here with us right now, if you would like to ask a question, feel free to put it in the chat or raise your hand. We'll kind of go back and forth. We have questions sent in from family members. We sent out a survey, and so we'll ask some of those questions. But if you have any questions about anything, if you are, wanting an answer, feel free to put that in the chat, and we'll make sure to answer your question. So we'll start off with our first question. So could you give the audience an overview of the admissions timeline? When can seniors start applying? And then when will they hear a decision?
Absolutely. And let me start by saying that, the timeline for the college search process really should start for students in, no later than their junior year of high school. That's so that they can have a better understanding of what to expect senior year before some of the timelines really get to crunch time. But really, what we encourage students to do, if you're looking at this timeline from the senior year, is to start applying to colleges as early as July, August of their senior year. Most institutions will open their application right when the students start their senior year. And so usually July, August, September, that's the time to be applying to institutions. During that time, we also encourage students to visit campuses that they're interested in, whether it is an individual tour that they're doing at that institution, or a preview day, or a specialized visit for those students. Usually at some point early in the fall semester, students can take care of that and at least get a visit or two in with those institutions. Around October 1st each year is when the FAFSA application opens. And we encourage students to start applying and submitting their applications as soon as it opens. This is important because it allows students to take full advantage of the financial aid opportunities that are available to them by doing it as early as possible. Many institutions start sending out awards in the fall semester, and so if a student fills out their FAFSA early on, that helps them to get their award letter usually before the winter holidays. So moving along into the rest of the fall semester, at that point, I think it's important for families to really start comparing institutions as it relates to what your student is interested in, what they're interested in studying, where they're interested in going, and getting those financial aid award letters in front of you to compare and see what's available. And then after that, usually we move into what's called yield season, where we engage the students and their families and get those last minute questions answered. And most of that takes place in the spring semester for you as well. And then in March of each year, we open our new student orientation portal to get students to register for new student orientation. And that program will take place in the summer after they graduate from high school. And I believe we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later.
Thank you, Kyle. The next question we have, what materials do students need to apply?
Great question. This is a very timely question because the materials that's needed or the information that's needed has changed quite a bit since the pandemic started. So for the University of Memphis, students will generally need a transcript from their high school. If they took any dual enrollment classes or any classes with either a community college or another institution while they're in high school, we'll need transcripts from there as well. And at the University of Memphis, we are test flexible and have been since the start of the pandemic. And essentially what that means is we will still admit students without a standardized test score. And so students don't have to have an ACT or SAT to get admitted to the university. They can be admitted without those scores. Now, if your student decides to take the test and sends that information to us, it can be an added bonus for us to have that information. But generally, what we need and for the foreseeable future is just the transcripts for high school and or college.
Awesome, thank you. And so when students apply, they may have access to a TrueBlue Tiger portal. So could you explain what is the TrueBlue Tiger portal, and then maybe how that's different from their My Memphis portal?
Yes, absolutely. I actually just got out of a meeting talking about the TrueBlue Tiger portal. But the TrueBlue Tiger portal is designed for students from the time that they show interest in the University of Memphis all the way up until they're enrolled in classes. And this portal has everything from the admissions letter. So once your student is admitted to the university, the admissions letter is housed in this portal. This portal is where they will sign up for new student orientation. And generally, this portal is created when your student submits an application to the university. And so in order to actually get to the application, a student has to create their TrueBlue Tiger portal. And all correspondence can be tracked within this portal as well. The difference between this portal and their My Memphis portal is that the My Memphis portal essentially picks up once they are enrolled in classes. Generally, there's some things that students may need to do in their My Memphis portal, like accepting their financial aid. That's where they actually register for classes. Information will be in there about their parking passes, who their academic advisor is. All of that stuff is within the My Memphis portal. And so the easiest way to differentiate between the two is to know that the TrueBlue Tiger portal is where information will be prior to them enrolling in classes next summer, and the My Memphis portal will be what they will use mostly once they are enrolled in classes and on campus at the university.
Thank you for that. I would have been confused myself. Do students automatically get a Memphis email once they apply, or is there a certain time when they have to do something to activate it? And also, when should they start checking their their Memphis email versus their personal email?
That is a great question, and I'm glad that you asked. And we can't stress the importance of their Memphis email enough. So most students, once they are admitted to the university, after filling out our freshman application, they will get correspondence to set up their My Memphis account. And some of your students may reference this 20-digit code that they have to use. That's their authentication code to both set up their My Memphis account and also activate their University of Memphis email account. So that account is created once they're admitted to the university. And it's usually some variation of their first initial and last name or something like that. And it's specific to your student. And every piece of university correspondence will be coming to that email once a student is enrolled in classes. And so it's important for them to start checking that email as soon as they activate it, because our office will send emails to that email account as well. We know that students aren't checking it regularly, and so we'll continue to send emails to their personal email account that we have on file, but we'll also start sending emails to their university address as well. But once they are here and enrolled, that's the official way that the university communicates with students. And so if they start getting in the process of checking it now, it'll be a little bit easier once they're enrolled in classes to check it regularly and receive the information that they need. The other piece to that in terms of importance is whenever they are corresponding with their professors or university offices, they need to be emailing from that email account as well, so that our faculty members and campus community will be able to recognize who the email is coming from as is official correspondence from the student.
Perfect. And then they can find that code on their admissions letter or in the portal, or if they don't know where it is, maybe they saw it and don't remember where they saw it.
Great question. So the 20-digit code is within their True Blue Tiger portal. And so they can log in and get it that way. Or if they have questions or can't find it in the portal, they can always reach out to our office and we can share that with them as well.
Perfect. Thank you. And I know you explained when we talked about the admissions timeline, how juniors, it really should start at the end of your junior year. And so this question is about the junior year as a whole. So how should high school juniors be preparing for the application process? And so is there anything they can do starting their junior year to help them prepare to get into the University of Memphis?
That's a wonderful question. The junior year is just as critical for students as well. I actually have a nephew who is a high school junior, and he's probably sick of me sending him messages telling him what he needs to do to get ready for college. But it's really important for juniors to start thinking about where they want to go. Start looking at institutions that they think may be a good fit, that they can afford or that their parents can afford. Does the institution have the major that they're interested in? Start thinking about those things. And it's never too early to visit campuses as well. And so, again, a lot of campuses host junior preview day events. Ours is typically in March or April each year. And so we'll have one coming up within the next couple of months. Or students can go on an individual tour of institutions just to kind of get a feel for what that looks like. Another thing that students in their junior year should start thinking about is, if they want to take dual enrollment classes, if they want to, get a head start on their college experience by taking classes so that when they come in, they won't have as many classes left to take. You can start doing that in your junior year as well. So there are a lot of things that they can definitely start doing. I think the most important is to think about the institution that they want to attend, and start making pros and cons lists. and then also starting to visit those institutions as well.
Very good. So you mentioned earlier about the University of Memphis having a test flexible policy. I know at one point they were kind of taking it year by year, especially with the pandemic, because we just all didn't know, how long we were going to be in this type of situation. But do you have any information as far as, is this something that's going to be permanent, or is it going to be continuing for the next 2 years?
Great question. I cannot say that this will be permanent, but I will say that the test flexible admissions policy has shown us that students are still able to be admitted to institutions and do well without taking those standardized tests. And so for the foreseeable future, we will continue with the test flexible policy at the University of Memphis. I know that there are some institutions that are moving back to pre-pandemic admissions policies, but right now we'll hang on to the test flexible policy, once we make that change, if we make that change, we'll definitely share that very broadly.
So with that, we talked with Matt Rhodes last week, I believe, and he talked about, we have test flexible scholarships. We also have scholarships that require an SAT score or ACT score based on merit. And so let's say a senior is going to be taking the December ACT. Are they still able to submit that score if they got a really good score and want to, get those merit scholarships? Are they still able to submit that when they receive it? Is there a deadline to submit new scores? So how should they navigate that?
Yeah. So our priority scholarship consideration deadline is December 1st. So if a student applies and is admitted by December 1st, what our scholarship office does is takes that student's information and awards them a scholarship based on whether or not they meet the criteria for those scholarships. Students have until March 1st to apply to the university and still be eligible for scholarships. So if they take the December test, they get a good score on it or a higher score on it, our scholarship office will increase their scholarship if it is if they meet the criteria for the next level of scholarships. And so I think the last test that they would be eligible to take and send scores in for would be the February test. Once those scores come in, if they scored higher, our scholarship office will give them or award them a higher scholarship.
Thank you so much for that answer. That kind of leads to my next question. Just continuing to talk about scores, so to speak. You also mentioned dual enrollment and how a student would need to submit their transcript to show and confirm that they have taken dual enrollment courses. And then there's AP courses and AP test scores that students would have to turn in. How are dual enrollment and then AP course credits typically applied for students? Are they like electives, or do they typically cover some type of degree requirement?
That's a great question. And I will say that this probably differs mostly on what the student's actual major will be. Generally, when a student takes a dual enrollment course, it will be a course that is what we consider a general education course at the university. So typically it's English 101 or college algebra, maybe a history course. Those typically will satisfy a requirement for that student in whatever the class is that they are trying to get comped, basically. In terms of AP scores, is a little bit different. So generally, a student has to pass the AP class that they're taking in high school, and then also receive usually a 4 or a 5 on the AP exam in order to get credit for the course that they are trying to test out of, essentially. So it basically depends on their major, and then if it's an AP course, it'll be more contingent upon what they score on the AP exam, more so than what their class average is.
Thank you. All right. And so this is a question that a family member has sent in. So is the nursing program affiliated with any other program? So I think this question can kind of go multiple ways, maybe talking about clinical placements that we have with internships, or maybe majors that are, similar to nursing.
I'm not sure that I fully understand the question, but I will try to answer it as best I can. The university has partnerships with, various hospitals, various clinics within the Mid-South region, where students are able to get intern and externship hours and that on-the-job experience before they actually graduate from their nursing program. But I'm not sure of any official partnerships with any other institutions in terms of our College of Nursing. But there are opportunities for students to get that on-the-job training with various clinics and hospitals throughout the state of Tennessee and really in this Western Tennessee region.
Thank you so much, Kyle. How are incoming students considered for university scholarships? I know you mentioned December 1st as them being admitted to the university, but is there a separate application that they need to complete to apply for a scholarship, or how are they typically considered for university scholarships?
So for any of our merit scholarships that are offered at the university, this is typically our Dean Scholarship, our Provost Scholarship, or our Presidential Scholarship. Those awards are determined based on a student's admission information. So when a student applies to the university, they tell us that they have this GPA and this ACT score. What the scholarship office does is takes that information and awards students their scholarships based on whatever that information is. So those are for our merit-based awards. We also offer some departmental-based awards. So thinking about our Emerging Leaders Program, our First Scholars Program, things like that. Those require a separate application for students to receive those awards. Typically, those applications will open in November of the student's senior year and will close in February and are available on what's called Tiger Scholarship Manager. I think it is planning, or the scholarship office is planning to open Tiger Scholarship Manager within the next couple of weeks. It's usually open by November the 15th. And students are able to apply for those departmental scholarships, as well as some private scholarships. I think the portal hosts about 800 or so scholarships that are available for students to apply every year. There's certain criteria that the students may have to meet based on what the eligibility requirements for those scholarships are. But all of that is available in Tiger Scholarship Manager. And if your student's a senior, they should be receiving information about it within the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. And that's a good segue to plug our Tiger Talk from last week as well. So Matt Rose also talked a good amount about Tiger Scholarship Manager, how to access it, how to fill out the general application, and what you will see from there. And so feel free to look at that on our YouTube, University of Memphis Parents and Family Services. And so a next question also from a family member. So after being accepted, what is the next step in becoming a student?
Wonderful question. After a student is accepted, we'll send some correspondence encouraging them to go ahead and set up their My Memphis account, set up their email account, things like that. I can't stress enough the importance of filling out that FAFSA application for students, especially if your student is within the state of Tennessee. There are awards that are awarded if you submit that FAFSA application. So take the Tennessee Hope Scholarship, for example. Even if you don't think you're going to receive any financial aid, the state of Tennessee still requires you to fill out the FAFSA in order to get the Hope Scholarship. And so know the importance there. But then also one of the next bigger things would be registering for New Student Orientation, which is our program that's designed to get students on campus. It usually takes place in, starting in May and goes all the way through August. This year, it'll be a one-day program where students will come, learn a little bit more about the experience at the University of Memphis, meet with their academic advisor, register for classes, get their student ID, things like that. We also have a parent component to New Student Orientation where parents are able to come and learn about how you can best support your students as well. So registration for that will open on March 1st. That's one of the next bigger things that students need to be on the lookout for, among other things as well, that we'll send information about.
Thank you so much. That actually addressed one of the questions that we received, actually two of the questions that we received. But we definitely encourage parents to attend the New Student Orientation session with your student, because we get a chance to talk with you. You get a chance to hear from other parents who are on the journey that you're about to take. And so it's really enlightening and a lot of fun as well. So we hope that you will make that step and we get to spend that day with you all. The next question I have is kind of, I guess, more so after they've done their email and they've signed up for the portal and they're maybe signing up for New Student Orientation. Let's talk a little bit about housing. Are students required to live on campus?
Students are not required to live on campus at this point. We certainly encourage students to live on campus. Even if you are a student from the Memphis metro area, research shows that students who live on campus are more likely to persist and graduate. And part of that is because they're getting that full college experience. They're taking classes with students that they may be living with, or there are different programming activities that they can do, that maybe take place at night or on the weekends. And so while it's not required for students to live on campus, it's certainly encouraged at the university.
Awesome. And then going along with that, when does the housing application open and is there a deposit required?
So typically the application opens in February. I think February 1st is when it'll open. And there's a $45 non-refundable fee associated with that application. And so there's no deposit in the general sense of the word, but there is an application fee for submitting that housing application.
That's good to know. No deposit, but an application fee. Another parent and family member asked, is housing separated by major or gender and are bathrooms shared by the floor?
To answer the first part, there are some opportunities for students to be on floors or in wings with students who are in their specific major. Typically, this happens in a living learning community. So for example, there's a living learning community in Centennial Place, which is our largest residence hall for students who are in the College of Engineering. And so There are opportunities for them to live together, participate in programming together, things like that. There are also buildings that are separated based on gender. And so some buildings with just males, some with just females. And then there are some co-ed facilities as well, with both males and females. The important thing to take away from this is that no matter which building a student is in, only if you are living on a certain floor will you have access to that floor. And so in a building where there's males and females, if they don't live on the same floor, then they don't have access to that floor or to that student's room. And then the last part of your question regarding bathrooms, it's a combination. So we have the buildings with the traditional style bathrooms, which is sort of the style of the past, if you will, where there are two students in one room, maybe 35 students on a floor, and they all have a community style bathroom where there are, there's one bathroom with like maybe 8 to 10, showers in there, 8 to 10 stalls in there. There are also private style bathrooms. So two students in a room, they just share that one bathroom together. There's suite style living on campus. So there may be 6 students in a suite and they all share a bathroom together. And then there's also apartment style where there may be 4 students in an apartment and they all individually have their own bathroom. And so lots of options there for your students to choose from. And it's important for your student to choose what is most comfortable to them as they make this transition to college.
Awesome. We have a question from a family member. And so if a student has already applied and met the ACT/grade requirements, when should they receive an academic scholarship offer? So when will they actually know if they met the December 1st priority deadline, turned everything in? When will they know if they received that scholarship?
So generally, the scholarship office will probably send awards either right before the winter holidays, so mid to late December or early January. And they'll continue to send awards throughout the year. So let's say your student doesn't submit their application until, end of January, which we hope isn't the case. We want y'all to submit them earlier than that. They meet scholarship requirements. They'll start getting that correspondence soon after at that point. It's also important to note that if your student files or submits a FAFSA application, those financial aid awards will likely come out prior to the scholarship awards. I know that the financial aid office is working very diligently to get those awards out within the next couple of weeks to students. And so if a FAFSA is on file and our financial aid office has been able to package the student's award, they'll likely get those before the scholarship awards.
And thank you so much, Kyle. I think that kind of goes into our next question, which is, how do we figure out what tuition will be for our student? This is one from parents.
Great. So on our University of Memphis website, I think the easiest thing to do is on the search function is to type in tuition estimator. This is exactly what it says. It's an estimator of what your student's tuition will look like in terms of a ballpark estimate. The state of Tennessee legislature does not let us know what our tuition rates will be until about June or July prior to the start of the fall semester. And so, the estimator won't be accurate unless there's no change in what those fees are. But it'll give you a pretty good understanding of what it looks like. And it's also important to pay close attention to the number of hours that you are putting in the estimator. So at the university, 12 hours is considered full-time student status. And so that's where I'd tell parents and families to start at. If your student's going to be a full-time student, put in 12 hours in the estimator. We encourage students to take about 15 hours each semester in order to remain on track to graduate in 4 years. They certainly don't have to do that, but when putting in the hours in the estimator, just know that 12 is the full time, and it'll spit out a number for you based on what our tuition rates were this previous year, what our fees were, and whether or not your student will be living on campus or participating in a meal plan as well.
Awesome. And then going off of that, are there any discounts or scholarships for students who live in bordering counties?
There are. So students who live out of state, but in a county that borders the city of Memphis. So if you are living in Mississippi and live in DeSoto, Marshall, Tate, or Tunica County, and then if you live in Arkansas, in Crittenden County, you would be eligible for in-state tuition at the University of Memphis. Another piece to that is even if you live outside of those counties, you're out of state. I will say that the university drastically cut its out-of-state tuition by about 35% about 4 or 5 years ago, really to make it a little bit more affordable for students and their families. And so if you fall outside of that bordering county range, you still have an opportunity to get a degree at an affordable cost.
Awesome. And then going a little further from bordering counties, are there any chances for scholarships for international students?
There are scholarships available for international students. On our scholarship office's website, there's a link to scholarships for domestic students within the United States. But then there's also a link for students who are international students and are coming to study in the United States as well. And we can send that link out to you in the chat for sure.
Thank you so much. There's a question in the chat that from the Millers. How does my student let the university know that they want to attend after being accepted, and when do we register or pick housing?
Awesome. So to let us know that you are interested in the university or to confirm your enrollment is by submitting or registering for new student orientation. So again, that registration will open on March the 1st. And a student can choose, one of 18 sessions that we're doing over the course of the summer. And that essentially confirms your enrollment at the University of Memphis. Some institutions require you to pay an enrollment deposit or call it an enrollment deposit by signing up for orientation. That is essentially your enrollment deposit. And then in terms of housing, that application will open in early February for students who are planning to live on campus. Again, there's a $45 non-refundable application fee for housing. And students will typically know what their housing assignment is at some point, I think in June or July, prior to coming to the university the upcoming fall.
Awesome. All right. So I know you've been in admissions for, a couple years. So you have interacted with parents and families when it comes to the admissions process and getting their students to the University of Memphis. So could you give us advice for the families during the admissions process? And so I know there's a lot of deadlines for the students. We talked about the timeline on how, you need to visit a school, fill out the FAFSA by October 1st, scholarships December 1st. But any advice to our family members out there who are really trying to nudge and encourage their students to keep up with the deadlines, so that they have a really good start to their experience?
Yeah, there's plenty of advice out there, and I mentioned earlier how I have a nephew who's a high school junior, who is as lazy as any 16 or 17-year-old that you know. And for him, it's the same thing that other families face. And I thought, I'm an admissions professional. I can really get him motivated, but that has not been the case. And so I'm sort of in the same boat with you all. But I will say that a couple of things that are important is to start early for sure. Even if your student is a freshman or sophomore in high school, start having those conversations early, whether they want to have those conversations or not. If you know that college is the route that they need to consider, it's important to definitely start early. The other part to that is using the resources that are available to you. So don't think of college admissions offices as units that are not accessible to you. The whole purpose of our office is to assist you all with this process. And so if y'all have questions, if you have concerns, if you just need a little bit more clarity about what you should be doing, whether or not you did something right, please call us, email us. We are here to serve you. Each of your students have what we call an admissions counselor. And this person is dedicated to serving you and your student. And so, we want to make this process as easy and as smooth for you. And so don't think that we're not able to support you and help you along the way. It's so important to utilize those resources that are there for you.
All right, and then we had one more question in the chat. I shared a couple resources, but if you could explain, I know students are able to, receive merit-based scholarships based off their application, but does the university just reward based on submitted ACT and current GPA, or are there other university scholarships?
Will you repeat the
So
actual question part?
Yeah, the question was, does my student apply for the university scholarships, or does the university just award based on ACT and current GPA scores?
So the university will award based on that information. So let's say that your student applies in at the end of October, and they let us know they have a 3.9 GPA and a 29 on the ACT. What our scholarship office will do is take that information from their application and automatically award students based on that information. That's for our merit-based scholarships only. Any of our private or departmental scholarships, the student has to submit a separate application for those. And typically, what those departments will do is ask for information outside of their grade. So they'll want to know, what your student is involved in the community, or, what clubs or organizations they were in while they're in high school. So it takes a little bit more information when they're awarding those awards. But for the merit-based scholarships, those are automatically awarded.
Perfect. I think those are all the questions that we have, and all the questions from the chat and questions sent in before. Kyle, thank you so much for meeting with us to talk to prospective family members on how to get their students to the university to become a Memphis Tiger. Families, we want you to know that, like Heather said in the beginning, our office is here for you. And so if you have any questions from the time your student is applying right now, all the way up till we get your student to walk across the stage at graduation. We are here to connect you to different campus partners, to let you know how you can support your student. And so please feel free to reach out to us. And so you can email us at parents@memphis.edu, and you will hear from either Heather or myself. But we want to again thank you so much for joining us today. Our next Tiger Talk is going to be about managing stress during finals. And so your student may not be there yet, but if you want to tune in, feel free to do so. But again, thank you so much for today. And we look forward to meeting with you, and let us know if you have any questions after this.
Thank you all so much.